What's up guys, I'm Tommy Bowyer and welcome to Movie Rewind, where today we will be reviewing Spider-Man 2. And for me and virtually everyone else, this is the high point of the Spider-Man franchise. This movie has everything in it. It is just the perfect Spider-Man film. It understands the character, it has a great villain and a really grasping storyline. The movie stars Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Rosemary Harris, Alfred Molina and J.K. Simmons, and was directed by Sam Raimi. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So before we start, I'm just going to read an extract that Sam Raimi gave to interviewers before this movie was released. Sam Raimi states that the pressure on this film is making sure that the fans of the first film are satisfied and that they feel it is a deeper progression into the world of Spider-Man. Now, Sam Raimi saying that shows why he was the perfect choice to direct this movie. Because he understood that unlike movies nowadays, which just try and raise the stakes, which have bigger explosions, he understood that it was all about the character of Spider-Man. He understood that in the first movie, with great power comes great responsibility, that can carry on into the second movie. And that is the main storyline in this movie. We see Spider-Man, Peter Parker, portrayed by Tobey Maguire, dealing with wishing he could have a normal life where he could fall in love with Mary Jane, where he could become friends with Harry Osborn, basically doing what all of us take for granted. However, he has the responsibility of being Spider-Man. And the storyline is taken directly from the comics, in which his powers start fading. And you really understand that he wishes he could just be a normal guy. And when his powers start failing, he's happy about it. And that makes for some very unique storytelling. And it does make you think, it's very thought-provoking. It makes you think whether a superhero would actually want to be normal again. And this movie does that perfectly. It lays out Spider-Man, in such a way which could just relate to any superhero. As for the acting, the majority of the cast from the first movie return, and they're all really, really good. Tobey Maguire, he's better in this as Spider-Man. I felt in the first one a couple of times, it was a bit not too humorous, but in this movie, because of the storyline they're doing, it works. You can really understand that Peter Parker is struggling with the decision of being a superhero or just having a normal life like everyone else. And I think Tobey Maguire does it really well. You can really see the conflict. There is conflict there. Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson. Once again, she's very likeable. She's a good actress and she is good in the storyline. I have to admit, she does have her moments. James Franco as Harry Osborn. I really enjoyed him in this movie. I thought he excelled in his performance than the one he did in the first movie, because you can really understand that there is anger there and there is conflict between Harry Osborn and Peter Parker, and that works well. That really does work well. Once again, Sam Raimi understood that, everything from the first movie he needed to include in this movie, and he did that with J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. He gets such a massive role in the second movie, which it's brilliant because he's perfect at that character. He is so perfect that none of the other reboots have included J. Jonah Jameson, because J.K. Simmons just, you can't beat him because he excels in this role. So yeah, the majority of the cast are better. I actually, Rosemary Harris, who plays Aunt May, I think she is superb. I mean, I think in the last movie Uncle Ben was more kind of, the figure there, but I think Aunt May gets a bigger role in this movie and she's just brilliant. I mean, Rosemary Harris, she's the best Aunt May we've had so far, and that's nothing against the other people who have portrayed Aunt May, but Rosemary Harris, she just has that wisdom which comes with being, that elderly family member. So I think it's just perfect. The cast excel in their roles and they're brilliant. And as for villains, Alfred Molina's portrayal of Doc Ock is hands down the second best adaptation of a villain in a comic book movie, just behind Heath Ledger's Joker. Because He is that good. Doc Ock is just brilliant because he's relatable. He's a tragic character. And I think Sam Raimi understood that he needed to be tragic in order for people to understand why he was doing certain things. And Alfred Molina, he does bring a real likeness to the character. I don't know, there's just some of the lines he has and the way he delivers them, you feel you kind of like him. Even though he's doing quite terrible things, you're like, oh, I quite like you. And the effects on Doc Ock, the mechanical arms. I mean, I said in the first movie that the web slinging still holds up today. Well, Spider-Man 2 is over 10 years old and the mechanical arms on Doc Ock still hold up today. I think that just shows how cutting edge this movie is and why it is still considered one of the best Spider-Man movies, because the effects still hold up. I mean, there are less practical effects, which is kind of a shame because I thought Sam Raimi's use of practical effects in the first movie was really good, but I don't think you really need them here. I mean, the effects which are used, they do stand up well, and I think if they hold up well, then, you know, the movie doesn't lose anything. The action in this movie is also far better than the first one, and I think the best action scene in this movie, we all know it, is the train battle sequence. That is just perfect, and it still holds up today. Spider-Man versus Doc Ock, I don't know, it was just brilliant. It was action-packed, it was intense, and, you know, he's got citizens in peril, and I think that does kind of show that you understand Spider-Man in that he would sooner save people's lives than capture the villain. Which, you know, it just, oh my god, this movie just understands the character of Spider-Man so well, and that's what makes a good superhero movie. And I wish more movies took this on. I wish that they understood it's not about the action, it is about understanding the character. And Spider-Man 2, it understands Spider-Man. So if you love Spider-Man, then watch this movie, because this is the best adaptation that we have seen so far. Weaknesses. This movie doesn't really have any weaknesses. If I had to pick one out, I'd say the laziest retread of the first movie is the burning building scene. I felt like, wow, another burning building? Really? Like, they could have had something different. But it doesn't damage the movie as a whole, because the storyline carries it. And if the first movie was, you know, a fun, action-packed adventure, this movie is more of a drama, because the first movie focused more on Spider-Man. This movie focuses more on Peter Parker, which isn't a bad thing. That's the thing about this movie. The storyline is really, really good. And, spoilers, at the end, when Mary Jane finds out that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, you know, there's no words, because there doesn't have to be, because within that moment, it explains everything. Mary Jane doesn't have to ask Peter anything, because it is just self-explanatory, and all the audiences probably went, finally, finally. And I don't know, there's just, the last 15 minutes of this movie are just perfect. You know, Spider-Man gets everything, and you kind of wish that they didn't make a sequel. And I sometimes think that the movie ended there. You know, there was no sequel, there was nothing. The movie should have just ended there, because he couldn't have topped Spider-Man 2, and they were all fools for trying. So in conclusion, Spider-Man 2 is the perfect sequel. It raises the bar on all levels and progresses with the characters. The acting, just like the original, is perfect. All the actors are just made for those roles, and it has a great villain in the form of Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, and that is why Spider-Man 2 gets a well-deserved 10 out of 10. And you know what? This is one of my favourite movies of all time. It just tops the first one on all levels, and it's just awesome. There's nothing more to say. It's just awesome. So thanks for watching, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed my Spider-Man 2 movie review. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe in order to receive great and maybe even improved quality content in the future. And of course, make sure to look out for my next Spider-Man review. Obviously, the good times are over and we're heading into cloudier times. Keep an eye out for my Spider-Man 3 movie review, a very controversial movie. So anyway guys, I will see you in the next one. See ya!